And so this is kind of what we do. We have a couple of different facilities in Burlington, North Carolina, Midland, North Carolina, and up in London, Ontario. And I went to work for these guys a while ago, and it took them almost a year to convince me to come to work for them. And at one point, they were like, well, why don't you want to come to work for us? I'm like, you don't make anything I like. And they actually make a pretty good polyester compost sock, which is very similar to that product there. But we made no biodegradables. And that's pretty much all the work that I'm, working on right now is biodegradables. And you would think that's fairly simple, right? We're just going to make it out of biodegradable materials. And a lot of people are doing it right now with cotton. Cotton almost immediately starts to lose tensile strength. You can barely get into the field before it starts to fall apart. So there's a real tricky thing here that we're working with to try and get them to, the good part about biodegradables is they biodegrade. The bad part about it for me about biodegradables is they biodegrade. So that's some of the things that you'll see me talking about as time goes on. The first project I wanted to talk about today is slope stabilizations and extreme weather events. The slope stabilization started before the extreme weather events in the project that I'm talking about. We had what we affectionately call our Mother's Day flood. It started raining on the Saturday of Mother's Day weekend, and it rained for 36 hours, and we got over 13 inches of rain, which, if you're from North Carolina right now, you go, that's really nothing. But if you're from New Hampshire, it was a lot of rain. That was trying to get to the job. I waded through about knee-deep water to get there. This was the first compost blanket I ever blew. It was at a composting facility that I worked with, and he just could not understand what I was trying to do. So I went out in his front yard, and I put a sock down, and I blew a compost blanket there, and that was about 4 days later when we came back, all right? This is 2 inches of 1.5 minus evenly graded compost blown onto the slope. Don't try and put it up there with the bulldozer. Don't try and, because what you're trying to do is exactly what we were talking about earlier. We're creating loft in that. We are creating a huge sponge that we're putting on that slope, all right? And that's the way they work. This particular one that I'm talking about, we did put a netting into. I'm not even sure the netting was a good idea because I'll show you some examples. This was blowing the slope. This is 4.5 acres of 2-to-1 slope. We did nothing but below 2 inches of 1.5 evenly graded compost onto it. And I'll be honest, we engineered a soil for this. We back mixed finished compost with some wood fiber and some other components to make what we put onto that slope. And as I was doing that bottom, where he's blowing, where you see him blowing now, how many of you are familiar with blower trucks? Everybody up here, all right? Blower trucks should be your friend if you're in the composting business. If you can teach the blower truck guys, or you can make a compost that they can readily blow, top dressing lawns is just, I used to top dress lawns with a shovel and spreading compost on it. As soon as I ended up with a blower truck, I didn't even want a blower truck, but my boss bought one and said, oh, well, we got 10 weeks of bark blowing to do. What are you going to do with it the rest of the year? I'm like, I didn't buy it, you did. At any rate, we started doing a lot of compost top dressing. And then I got into doing specific mixes, because sometimes compost in southern New England is a great thing, and sometimes it's maybe not. So, but having a good mixture that they can blow, fairly dry, can be a really good profit source for a landscaping company with a blower truck. At any rate, this job came along. The short end of this thing was Down in the bottom of that picture, you'll see that's a Lowe's right now, okay? And they were going to build that Lowe's. They were going to do that the way they do every other building job in the world. They were going to build the Lowe's, and then we were going to stabilize this 4.5 acre 2-to-1 slope right behind it. And so I got involved because they wanted, when they started this job, they're about 300 yards from Lake Winnipesaukee. And the year before I was involved, when they just started the dirt work there and they just cut off that whole slope, they had a significant discharge into Lake Winnipesaukee. EPA took them in a room in Boston, sat them in a chair, and I think they got about an $80,000 fine. So an engineering firm and I that I knew came out. We got involved with polyacrylamides. Anybody know what polyacrylamides are? All right, actually, Compost makes a pretty good polyacrylamide. Compost is sticky, right? That's, polyacrylamides aggregate things together. So they would pick all of the fines out and put them together. At any rate, we went and did a whole mess of testing. It was going to cost them a fortune to use polyacrylamides to keep the site going until they built that site. So the engineer and I got together, and we bumped our heads for a little while with the contractor. We said, I know you really want to build that building, but what if we use that building as a detention pond and we stabilize this slope, and then you can build your building, okay? And so that's what we did. And I said, I'll even make it better for you because you're not even going to have to put any loam on that slope. You're going to cut it. I'm going to blow 2.5 inches of compost on it right behind you. It's not going to be sitting for 3 weeks while you get the one part done to do the other part. We went in and we did it this way. At any rate, it was fairly successful except for one. We had all of this project done except for about 8,000 square feet on the one side of that picture. And so I ran up there the day it was going to rain. We blew compost right up until it rained, and we covered that slope. And I went home, and I felt fairly good about myself. Somewhere after 9.5 to 10 inches of rain, that whole 8,000 square feet fell off and landed in the bottom of the ditch. And the contractor was kind of funny because he goes, I went across the street for a coffee at the Dunkin' Donuts, and I turned around when I came out of Dunkin' Donuts, and it was all gone. And that's why I say I'm not sure I should have put the netting down, because I think the netting held it all together and took it off in one piece. I'd have had some rilling in it, but I don't think I would have had it fall off like that. At any rate, that is, like I said, that's over 15 years old now. And it's very sustainable. That 2-inch layer seems to integrate itself into the soil underneath fairly quickly. All right. Now, the other thing here, that was hard clay. That was about the worst, as far as trying to get stuff to grow on it right away. But it worked extremely well, extremely well. So that, but again, those are some, you want to work with an engineer or you want to work with a soil scientist to develop that product and then get a blower truck company bought in to come in and do that. 4.5 acres, I'd love to have had 3 blower trucks there because we were working 7 days a week, sometimes 20 hours a day to get it all done with the one truck that we had. So compost socks, like I said, not actually compost. Do you know what compost socks were designed around? Compost socks were designed by a composter. He had one, Rod Tyler, I'll mention his name. He's a good friend of mine. He said, what if I could put all my compost through a system once and I had a product that I could use, everything that came off of that would get used once. And I wasn't putting anything back into the system and back into the system and back into the system. So that's actually where this came from. He really designed this around composting, putting it through a screen and being able to have a finished compost that he could use, a product that he could use inside that sock. And I can tell you that if you could do that, my problem in New England when I was doing it in New England, and I don't worry about it anymore, but when I was doing it in New England, I could have plenty of that product. It's too contaminated with plastic. All right, so if you had a better control over your waste streams going in, I think it would work. These are all non-biodegradable. It's basically what's used mostly now. You're going to start seeing more and more biodegradable stuff. So we probably got, we're probably have 4 or 5 different products in the pipeline right now, including a hemp product. Everybody asks me about hemp. Can't you make it out of hemp? Hemp twine, the way it is, does not run through anybody's equipment. If you put it through a lyocell process and plasticize it, it will go through that. And we found a company in Canada that is going to be making hemp lyocell twine, and we hope to be using it in industrial twine, and we're hoping to be able to use that. They get like 99% recovery of all the chemicals. I mean, everything sounds great right now. These socks now are made coir, straw, Excelsior, composted wood fiber. You're starting to see a fair amount of rice hulls now. Not rice straw, rice hulls. So we're taking away another waste stream to do that. Now, what this was all designed around, again, we're originally looking at compost overs, and so we had to take that flow-through rate. So the coarser it is, the faster I can get it to flow through the sock, but it doesn't filter very well if it's really coarse, right? So where those two lines cross, that's where the original specs came up with. Typically, 1.5 minus with less than 40% fines passing to 3/8 sieve was what the major companies use. There's a lot of other people doing some other things. But at any rate, it gets a little bit away. This is fairly good representation of what that product ought to look like. So not really compost, but it may be product that can come out of your facility, that you can get rid of some other stuff. So at any rate, thank you very much.